Hi, everyone, and welcome to Module 3. We're officially at week 3 and almost halfway through this course. Over the last 2 modules, we've explored learning theories, culture, identity, and the social context of learning. This week, we're shifting our focus to something that sits at the center of every learning experience: how the brain processes information. This week, we'll be exploring perception, attention, immediate memory, and encoding. While these concepts may sound technical at first, I promise you've already seen them in action. Have you ever explained directions to a group of students or learners only to have someone immediately ask, "Wait, what are we doing?" Or have you taught a concept that seemed to make perfect sense in the moment, only to discover that the next day no one remembers it? As educators, it's easy to assume those situations are caused by motivation, effort, or engagement. Sometimes they are, but often they're connected to the way our brains process, store, and retrieve information. One of the biggest takeaways from this module is that learning has limits. Learners can only pay attention to so much information at one time. Working memory has a limited capacity, and just because information is presented does not mean it has been encoded into long-term memory. Understanding these cognitive processes helps us become better educators because it changes how we design our instruction. As we move through this module, think about these guiding questions. How does the brain process new information? What limits learning capacity? How should instruction respond to cognitive load? We'll begin by exploring perception and attention. These concepts help explain why learners notice some things immediately while completely missing other information presented right in front of them. We'll also learn about immediate memory and working memory. As educators, we often ask learners to listen, read, write, think, discuss, and solve problems all at the same time. Understanding the limitations of working memory helps us create instruction that supports learning rather than overwhelms learners. Finally, we'll examine encoding, which is the process of moving information into long-term memory so it can be remembered later. If learning is going to last beyond today, learners need opportunities to actively process, practice, apply, and connect what they're learning. As part of this module, you'll complete the perception, memory, and lesson planning activity. Although this is not graded, I strongly encourage you to complete it. One of the goals is to help us recognize that many of the lesson planning decisions we make as a teacher or educator are actually rooted in cognitive science. Things like chunking information, activating prior knowledge, reducing distractions, and provided guided practice aren't just teaching strategies, they're responses to how the brain learns. We'll also continue building our lesson plan through Lesson Plan Activity 3. This week, we'll focus on instructional procedures. In many ways, this is the heart of our lesson plan because it's where we'll describe what happens during instruction. We'll think about what the educator does, what learners do, how learning is sequenced, and how engagement is maintained. As we work on Lesson Plan Activity 3, please keep this week's content in mind and ask yourself, how am I helping learners focus their attention? How am I reducing unnecessary cognitive load? How am I helping learners move information into long-term memory? These are the kinds of questions effective educators ask themselves every day. I also want to highlight a major assignment that's due this week, the Cultural Heritage and Bias Reflection paper. This is one of the first formal papers that you'll submit in this program. Up to this point in this course, we've completed quizzes, discussions, and lesson plan activities. This assignment asks us to engage in deeper reflection, to connect course concepts to our own experiences, and demonstrate graduate level writing. My advice is simple: start early. Give yourself time to read the prompt, to review the rubric, to reflect on your experiences, and revise your work before submitting it. More importantly, remember that this assignment is not simply about completing a paper. The ideas we'll explore around identity, culture, lived experiences, and personal perspectives will continue to appear throughout our master's program and future practice. A quick reminder about this week's due dates. The attention quiz and encoding quiz are due on Thursday at 11:59 p.m. Lesson Plan Activity 3, initial post, and the Cultural Heritage and Bias Reflection paper are due on Saturday at 11:59 p.m. Replies to the discussion on Lesson Plan Activity 3 are due Sunday at 11:59 p.m. As always, if you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. And have a great week. I'll see you in Module 4.